Welcome. It's been a while since I've recorded one of these. And today, I wanted to say some words about the ally. This will be the episode in which I want to be more careful with my words. And I feel a tension between talking and not talking. So, in one sense, this is a serious matter. When we talk about the ally, we're entering a territory of great importance, significance, meaning. In 2021, with the internet, the access to information, the ease of access to knowledge that in centuries past we would perhaps have had to travel hundreds, thousands of miles to be the recipient of knowledge. And we might have had to sacrifice a lot to receive such knowledge. So there's an irony that in 2021, it's possible for us to have access to knowledge without any effort, perhaps, or any sacrifice. And the irony is that we may not even give it its due, give that knowledge its due, its respect, its consideration. I don't know the exact accounting, but it's said that the amount of information we might consume through the internet, even in just a day, is more than someone in medieval times might read in a lifetime. Something along those lines, something notable, significant. There's a metaphor from alchemy about the precious jewel having been left in the muddy refuse of the street, so many passers-by, none of them recognizing, stopping to pause, to appreciate, to see that jewel, to realize that jewel. In olden times, there were quests, lives dedicated to the search for the Holy Grail, alchemists seeking for the Philosopher's Stone, not turning physical gold, a physical base metal into gold, but the Philosopher's Stone as the quest for spiritual gold. So part of the hesitancy I have in speaking is the way in which today information can conceal as well as reveal. And I think that's a relationship that I'm perhaps in ongoing. In an ongoing process around the way that information can conceal and reveal. So may this exploration today be one of service and yeah, maybe that's it. Maybe may it be of service. I know I'd been wondering when I would record the next video, and as it turns out, in speaking today, it's what I call Ally Day, which I just made up this week. But for me, Ally Day is the anniversary of meeting the ally, my ally, the ally. And that was during a workshop on September 21st, 2019, in a workshop with Jeffrey Raff. So a big question for me in exploring ally work is the question of how do we meet our allies? How do we meet our allies? I met my allies, so to speak, during an exercise that Dr. Jeffrey Raff led. Dr. Jeffrey Raff, the author of The Practice of Ally Work. Dr. Raff is a Jungian scholar and analyst. He, in his 20s, in the 1960s, traveled to Zurich with a calling to study Jung, to study the alchemical, the mystical dimensions of Carl Jung's teaching. And one of his mentors at the Jung Institute in Zurich was Marie-Louise von Franz, a very close compatriot of Carl Jung, and one of the teachers at the Jung Institute who kept the flame alive of Jung's alchemical, Jung's mystical spirit. So Raff studied with von Franz, who was friends with and who studied with Jung. And so today, this conversation is happening in part because of those events and circumstances, and for many other reasons. So I want to acknowledge the emergent co-arising of this moment. For which we do not have a complete understanding, but we can acknowledge with gratitude and approach from this intentionality of service. Service to the truth, service to love, service to the recognition of our interdependence. Perhaps also in service to mystery, the mystery of our being, to step into, to enter into ground territory of being in which we do not know, in which our understanding is incomplete, and our meeting with being is open, receptive, and willing. So perhaps the day will be as much about what I do not say about the ally as what I do say. And I certainly can recommend, even encourage you, if you feel so called. I feel like this requires resonance. If you feel so called to check out Dr. Jeffrey Raff's book, The Practice of Ally Work, or his other books, in which he explores adjacent and deeply proximate territory. The alchemical tradition, the divine feminine, Sophia, global perspectives on this territory. I also want to acknowledge a book I'm currently reading, just started, called Indigenous Wisdom Psychology, I believe, by Richard Katz. So the conversation today, even though it's not of my cultural heritage, Anglo-European, nor Raff's, but to acknowledge the way this conversation intersects with the territory of indigenous wisdom. In fact, the territory of any wisdom that orients to the human being from a much larger dimension than that of empirical science. or empiricist psychology, in which who we are or what is possible for us is reducible to observation, measurement, categorization, and numbers. So the conversation today is in a boundless container of being, of not knowing, of humility, one can only hope. And all the errors within this conversation are mine through the limited view that I have on being. So I'm going to pause for a moment to gather, and you'd be welcome to take a pause too. Maybe acknowledging the breath, the living being in which we meet. So perhaps I'll try to say something simple about the ally, about the practice of ally work. And that simple thing is perhaps just to say that it is a practice that I engage in. That even though I do not have a comprehensive understanding of the ally, that this is a practice I engage in. It's a practice of proximity to mystery, to the limits of understanding, to intimacy, to presence. It's a practice in the territory of love. And it's a practice of emergence, of sensing into, of feeling into this moment, this relationship with what Raf calls the ally, and which has, and the dimension or dimensions of being inferred by that word, the ally, which appear by many other words or are pointed to by many other words across time and culture. And in this conversation today, we won't seek a comprehensive accounting or attempt a comprehensive anthropology of the ally. We'll just try and stay close to the experience, the presencing of what is pointed to by the word ally or by other words in that territory, in this territory. And so let's just simplify by orienting to this word presence. In mindfulness, in contemplative science, we might introduce the word presence. This word presence connected to the present moment. Presence as a word that emerges from our in-touchness with being, here-ness, thusness, tathagata, that which is. Presence. And in spiritual or philosophical schools, experiences, mystical knowings, we can come to know ourselves as presence, perhaps even understand ourselves as a dimension of this being we call presence. And so the ally is intimately related to presence, is what? In the practice of ally work, one builds relationship with the ally. One enters into relationship with the mystery. And perhaps that's all that needs to be said for now about the ally, is to give it the give the ally its due by acknowledging the ally as presence and our invitation to be in relationship with the ally. Maybe that's enough for this moment. I'm going to stop the recording. Perhaps other words will arise. Perhaps I will start another recording, but in this moment, perhaps that's all there is to say. Thank you for your presence. Thank you for this presence that we share together beyond the temporal distinctions and the geographic locations of you and I. May you be well.